People. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, fellow council members. I'd like to welcome you to the regular council meeting of Tuesday, February 28th, 2023 at 6 o'clock p.m. Today's meeting is being held. Sorry, we have an echo in the building and we're just going to deal with that. It's not like we haven't had that problem with the regional district either, is it? I'm looking at a couple of delegation members who are here from CBRD, and I think that's an ongoing concern when you're trying to live stream. I want to welcome you, and the meeting is being transmitted electronically via the council chambers here, which are temporarily located at King George Street, Lake Cowichan, BC. Also being recorded on our YouTube channel. Wish to watch later if you're not watching already. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge our gathering this evening on the traditional unceded territory of Subat people, with thanks for their stewardship of these lands for millennia and sharing them with us. Next, I will look for introduction of late items if there are any. Seeing none, looking for approval of the agenda, please. Moved by Councillor Bomaka, seconded by Councillor Frisbee. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That motion carries. A little bit of a pause there for effect, yes. Any business arising and unfinished business, Ms. Gill? Showing none, we'll move down to delegations and representations.
Didn't you forget something?
Let's do the minutes. Thank you. Yeah. That's why we have a deputy mayor to keep me in line. So we have minutes of the regular council meeting held January 24th, 2022. Moved, seconded. No errors or omissions in there. Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any?
1 second. I was just going to say Tuesday, January 24th, 2022.
And we'll change that to
2023. On here, just on here though.
Okay. With that small number amendment. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That motion carries. Thank you. Now I will move on to delegations and representations. We have with us today Mr. John Mountain and a free person, Ms. Pat Foster. John is with the BC Labour Heritage Center, and he's here to speak on Darshan Singh Sangha plaque placement proposal. Thanks for joining us, Mr. Mountain.
Thank you.
After our delegation status, you have 10 minutes to deliver your proposal, and we do not make decisions during the delegation, so it will be put forward for discussion in a future meeting.
Okay,
But we appreciate your attendance today and look forward to your proposal.
before I begin, I dropped off some handouts earlier in the week. I'm hoping you get a chance to look at them related to this. Thank you very much. So my name is John Mountain, and a little bit about me. I am a member of the CATSA Historical Society and a member of the BC Labour Heritage Center. I'm a board member. I'm also a volunteer archivist with the IWA Archives Collection down at the museum. And I just want to thank you, the council here, for the opportunity to speak about the plaques around the province and why the BC Labour Heritage Center is asking for the town council's support for the Darshan Singh Sangha commemorative plaque in Lake Cowichan. Bit about the project. The full name of the project is Remembering Working People Plaques Around the Province. And the project seek to identify groups and individuals and places throughout the province that demonstrate the contributions of working people throughout the history of BC. We work with organizations, with individuals, and informal groups to commission and install bronze plaques in publicly accessible places. And so far, we've successfully set 23 plaques around the province. We see this commemorative plaque as a way to recognize the efforts of the South Asian IWA organizer Darshan Singh Sangha, who both worked and lived in the Lake Cowichan area in 1937, which was the birthplace of the IWA, the International Woodworkers of America. That was in the stuff that I sent out earlier. So I just want to briefly touch on Darshan for a second. He was nominated by our group for his organizing work in the South Asian community in the Cowichan Valley. He was a son of a poor Punjabi farmer. Darshan Singh Sangha arrived in BC as an 18-year-old in 1937. He entered the forest industry and found that generally most white workers were paid 40 cents an hour, while South Asian and Chinese workers got far less for the same work. He also found that South Asian workers were the last to be hired and the first to be fired. Feeling that this was prejudicial and unfair, Darshan decided to become an organizer for the IWA. Despite being an organizer for only a short time, Darshan Singh Sangha left his mark in the IWA. Not only was he a successful grassroots organizer for the union, he was also elected by its members to the union's district as a district trustee. And he was also attended and spoke at IWA conventions. And he also served on the powerful resolutions, convention resolutions committee, and became a strong voice for minorities for the union. So from a historical standpoint, Darshan Singh Sangha lived and worked in Lake Cowichan, which is also the birthplace of the IWA. From a labor standpoint, he made a difference in the IWA union by convincing South Asian workers to join the IWA and bargain collectively. So we'd like to dedicate the plaque, this plaque, to honor his organizing work and that he did for the union, which we believe in a way helped this community prosper. So the BC Labour Heritage Centre, we're paying for pretty well everything for this project. We'll pay for the costs involved with casting the plaque in bronze and mounting the plaque on a stone. And that will be brought to the site. The bronze plaque, I mean, the costs were $5,700 just to get the plaque bronzed. And then there's other costs of the stone and then transportation of the stone. We're going to cover that. Previously, when we've chosen a location for the plaque, the communities that we chose and worked with have been involved in the physical installation of the plaque. Where we've installed plaques in parks and municipal land, the installation costs have been absorbed by the local governing bodies, which helps with the project costs from our standpoint, also ensures that the job's done properly. For example, we placed plaques in Burnaby and Nanaimo, Fernie, Barrier, and their city municipal workers make the installations. As I see it, the installation activities for our project here would involve placing the stone at a chosen location and then attending to any residual landscaping. I mostly see supervisory duties for town workers, as the stone placement will be performed, supervised by me and someone from the community who we've got our eye on, that access to a crane truck to bring it and set it down. So the location of the plaque, and there are a number of places in town that I looked at, but in the end, we felt it was appropriate that we have it at the museum, because that's the best place for it. And it's supported by the Cats Historical Society, thanks to Pat Foster. She supports it. Appreciate that. And in the end, I hope that this location works for the town. And really, to justify the selection of the location, you know, this plaque, it will be accessible to the public because it's going to be just across from the museum and across from the IWA collection archives. But we think that it'll contribute to an understanding of its historical significance. As a board member of the BC Labour Heritage Centre, and because I live fairly close in Chemainus, I'm kind of steering this project for them. And I'm hoping that once the plaque is installed, I know that we're going to try and organize a dedication ceremony for Lake Cowichan sometime in the summertime. And I'm hoping that all of you will possibly attend that, should we get the go-ahead for it. I'm not trying to get ahead of myself here. So I'm hopeful that this presentation will generate a motion to support our plaque project to commemorate Darshan Singh Sangha. And I want to thank you for hearing me and if we've got a few minutes, I think we do, I'll take any questions.
Turn to my colleagues and see if there are any questions. Councillor Sandy, please.
Well, I just want to say, reading the history of Mr. Sangera, just really moved me. It truly did. And just, is there family still in the area or
Yes, there is.
perfect? So,
There's some Sangas that live in Duncan,
okay,
and yeah.
that's wonderful. Thank you.
And I'll be extending it and ask them if they want to attend, should we go ahead.
Any other questions? No. Just a comment finally, during your tour of the town, I'm sure you saw the Forest Workers Memorial Park.
That's
And the
awesome.
dedication of those workers who especially have lost their lives within the forest industry. But not only that, anyone who wants to be commemorated. So that would be a contributing portion with the placement where you suggest for connectivity in the museum with the archives and the history of the IWA, which resides within those archives.
Yes,
I was a archivist myself for a short time of the Wilmer Gold collection, so I know the history within that collection, and it's a jewel that should not be lost. And again, we don't make any recommendations during the delegation, but we will certainly put this forward to our next committee of the whole meeting for discussion on your consideration of placement. And we will apprise you of the decision as soon as that is afforded to us in discussion.
well, thank you, Mr. Mayor and councillors, for hearing me today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm looking for direction to move this to committee of the whole, moved by Councillor Austin, seconded by Councillor Frisbee. That discussion on replacement be brought forward at committee of the whole meeting of, let's go March,
Let's
second week of March. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just the last thing to add, I'll be the contact on it, so if City Works wanted to contact me, if it should go ahead, I can give them the finer details of my vision of where it would be placed.
Absolutely. I'm sure we have to put collaborative on any of those. Sure.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Please don't feel you have to stay and watch the rest.
Could be thankful.
Well, let me let him. I'm not suggesting that Mr. O'Riordan is boring or anything.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, fellow councilors. We'll look forward to that discussion when it comes forward. Next up, we have two people from the regional district. I'd like to introduce in the back, Mr. Clayton Postings. I hope I got that right. There's too many there. And Mr. Barry O'Riordan. Barry is the manager of economic development Cowichan, and you're here for a economic development activity update. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you and good evening. Thanks for having me. Thanks for coming along. So yeah, good afternoon, evening. My name is Barry Reardon. I'm the manager with Economic Development Cowichan, a regional service with the CDRD. I was here to provide an update on EDC activities to you all. So some of the topics we'll cover today, I think you should have my presentation in your package there so you can follow along. First, we'll recap on the context of the EDC work plan, the Economic Development Cowichan work plan. Then we'll have a look at some data from the State of the Economy report that was recently published. And then I'll provide an update on EDC activities. So at EDC, our work is guided by both the Economic Development Cowichan strategic plan and the CDRD board strategic plan, both of which are due for an update. We're guided by some key initiatives such as the industrial land use strategy and the Cowichan tech strategy. And in our work, we continue to see how we can respond to climate change, as well as be a collaborative ally to Indigenous peoples to advance meaningful reconciliation. And importantly, we look to have our work informed by data, depending on how you say it. In late January 2023, EDC published the latest State of the Cowichan Economy report, which should be in your package, also on the EDC website. And what follows is a few highlights from that report. Population demographics. So as we look at that, we see the Cowichan population is growing slowly and aging, but that the Cowichan's Indigenous population is growing faster and is younger than overall population. In terms of household income, we see that the median household income is growing at the same rate as the province, which is good news. And we see employment shifting between sectors, where employment in healthcare, construction, education services, and public administration has gone up. We've seen that retail trade, manufacturing, accommodation, and food services all saw declines in employment. At the same time, the job vacancy rate remains elevated in the region, particularly in accommodation, food services, as well as retail, construction, and in healthcare. We also see that people continue to move to Cowichan from other places, parts of BC and beyond. In terms of agriculture, we're seeing between 2016 and 2021, the number of farms in Cowichan has decreased quite substantially, but the total acres farmed has actually increased. So that's signaling that there's consolidation within agriculture. And of course, housing challenges. Some context on the housing crisis. As we can see, the benchmark for price for single family dwellings up 67% over the last 5 years. Prices have finally started to stabilize to 2021 levels. And in December 2022, prices were about 3% lower than the same month in 2021. But current prices are still a major concern for affordability in the region. While issues of housing affordability may be well known, the link to the labor force is maybe less so. When workers are unable to find housing in Cowichan, they are more likely to leave the region, resulting in local businesses struggling to attract and retain staff, which we're seeing over Cowichan. So this is a story that we've heard over and over from business owners across the region. And as a result, we have launched the Cowichan Workforce Housing Strategy, a project which aims to develop actionable solutions to the housing crisis as it relates to employment. Moving on to EDC activities, I'll just provide a quick overview of current and upcoming EDC activities, starting with major initiatives that are underway, including the Regional Internet and Cellular Connectivity Strategy, and then the Cowichan Workforce Housing Strategy. So over the past year, EDC has been working on the development of the Cowichan Internet and Cellular Connectivity Strategy, and the development of the strategy is a regional objective of the CDRD board strategic plan. So the purpose of it is to better understand the state of Cowichan cellular internet cellular connectivity, so that we can create a strategy to meet our needs long into the future. The final report will be presented to the board later in March, I think on the second regional services or the committee of the whole meeting, and will include 4 individual community plans also for the least served communities. So the hope is that with these individual community plans, we'll position the least served communities to receive funding in the future from the provincial and federal sources that are available. So the individual community plans that are being developed include Dididat First Nation, Cowichan Lake Region, Cowichan Station, and Hedas and Penelakut Islands. And as mentioned, the CDRD then is working on a Cowichan Workforce Housing Strategy, and this work is being led by EDC. The work is being informed by the Regional Housing Needs Assessment, as well as a 2022 Workforce Housing Survey that we completed, among other documents. The strategy will examine and prioritize actions throughout the whole housing ecosystem, looking at local government, nonprofits, and private sector levels. The strategy will have 3 main engagement clusters, with the first cluster just completed in February. And then we've got some upcoming clusters of engagement around that taking place likely in April, focusing on a brainstorm of ideas for solutions to the crisis. Overall, the strategy, we're hoping to have it wrapped up this summer. And as mentioned, the EDC, the strategic plan is up due for an update. So we hope to undertake the development of a new strategy in the fall of 2023, once we've wrapped up the workforce housing strategy. And it's pending a the board approval of the budget, which is upcoming, I think, next week. So while it is a regional strategy, we're looking to have it aligned with the needs and interests of subregions, such as yourselves. Moving on to other EDC activities, I'll now provide a brief overview of the EDC activities as they relate to the EDC strategic plan. Firstly, business retention, attraction, expansion, and resilience. Here, EDC continues to support inward investment into the region. We did this in a number of ways, from timely and relevant information through the EDC website, blog posts, news releases, and print media, responding to direct investment queries via phone and email, and through participation in the Vancouver Island Coast Economic Developers Association investment attraction projects, such as the TechIsland.io initiative. We also continue to support businesses as they transition to a circular economy, response to climate change. And in 2022, 2023, we're doing this through the Viceda Clean Tech Attraction Project and through our leadership in launching a circular economy accelerator program on the island, which is being run by Synergy Enterprises. On industrial land, EDC has been working on support investment decisions around the use of industrial land by contributing to OCP processes. And the key message here is the single biggest factor for impacting investment decisions on industrial land is servicing. This is an area deserving significant focus, given its critical role in driving investment from industrial land to the supply of housing. Next, agriculture is next. So within agriculture, we continue to support the Island Agriculture Show, which was held on February 3rd and 4th this year, and featured a trade show and a great conference event. The show was well attended this year, rebounding from challenges resulting from the recent pandemic. The CBRD also supports the BC land matching program since 2018. And this program has been a really great resource in connecting landowners with farmers within the region. EDC also sits on the BC Climate and Agriculture Initiative for Vancouver Island, their oversight committee. And as part of that, the CBRD has funded a winter vegetable crop trial project within that. We'll provide funding towards that, which is at its final stages right now. EDC continues to be connected with the Cowichan Farm and Food Hub project, which received provincial support from the CBRD and being run by Cowichan Green Community in Duncan. And the hub is now expected to be built in 2024. As for regenerative agriculture, EDC is aware of work that's underway by VIU Cowichan to develop some curriculum in the area of regenerative agriculture. So we're looking at options to collaborate with them to move some of that work forward within the region. Moving on to tech, EDC continues to support the tech sector. Of course, key to having a tech-enabled society is having accessible high-speed internet. And as I mentioned, we're wrapping up the report on that presently. In 2021, we supported the development of a Cowichan tech curriculum with VIU Cowichan, SD79, Cowichan Tribes, and others. So that curriculum is now developed, and now we're trying to encourage and support VIU to now launch that program, which hasn't happened yet. And recognizing tech sector development in some cases is best done at the Vancouver Island scale. We also collaborated with other region on phase 3 of the Vancouver Island Tech Attraction Project, TechIsland.io, that I mentioned earlier, to attract global tech companies to Vancouver Island. Moving on to film, kind of rushing through things here.
All good.
The Cowichan Film Coordinator continues to work to attract film productions to the island to provide a seamless service for productions filming here. And the Cowichan film industry continues to play an important economic development role with productions active in 2022, including Holidays, and super pumps. As for tourism Cowichan continues to be supported by 4BI, which is formerly TDI, Tourism Vancouver Island, to deliver tourism services within the region. So in 2022, the CVRD and Tourism Cowichan renewed the municipal and regional district tax at a 2% level for the region. And in 2023, the service agreement between the CVRD and Tourism Cowichan is coming up for renewal. So we're looking at that. So our office continues to see sports tourism, including rowing and cycling, as major growth opportunities for the region. Last but not least is sub-regional support. EDC recognizes that the needs and interests of individual communities are important and that towns and villages remain key to economic vitality. So as part of our mandate, we look to support sub-regions, including through collaboration on the development of economic development strategies, design charrettes, and community-based initiatives. In 2022, we have the benefit of having a grant program in place where we hired a temporary sub-regional economic development analyst to support this type of work. Unfortunately, that contract expired in 2022 and was not renewed. As EDC embarks on a revision of the EDC strategic plan, we continue to look to see how we can prioritize sub-regional support within our unit's capacity. And that is all. But I welcome any questions or comments.
I'm sure
There's a lot in
there
there.
are questions. And thank you first for your presentation. And look to my colleagues if there is any questions or comments. I will start. I'm going to concentrate on the connectivity strategy. And the reason I say that is I was approached by CTV Vancouver Island News on an announcement by the provincial government on working from home with connectivity. So with the connectivity strategy and looking that the federal government has deemed connectivity as an essential service, and yet it still resides within a corporation mandate for profits. The problem is, even with the connectivity result, they are driven by those large corporations that make the final decision. So I'm wondering how this strategy can focus on contributing to the implementation of fiber, for instance, in outlying areas, and how that could contribute to tech work from home, for instance. So could you expand on that a bit?
I don't want to give away the strategy too soon. It should be published in the next few weeks. But I think broadly speaking, the way the federal funding works, and then the province is also on board, and they have a new mandate in order to kind of get everyone up to at least the 50/10 level, so 50 download speed and 10 upload speed megabits per second. I think they're really pushing to get a lot of that done by 2026. So, and most of the investments that have already taken place, to our knowledge, are kind of the low-hanging fruit. So what's left for funding is stuff that isn't really economically viable for based on the interests of the incumbent internet service providers. So I think they typically want like a 5-year return on investments. So if you're not meeting that, and about $2,500, they're generally willing to have a $2,500 investment per household, kind of within their calculation. So if getting the infrastructure from point A to point B in an area that's considered underserved, so under that 50/10, then there's a chance. If it's over the 2,500, they're probably not going to make the investment. So at that point, then you look, okay, how can the community nudge them along to make that number work? So that's the report that will be coming. We'll look at market failure analysis. So it's a failure of the market to take care of the problem. So it'll be looking at what is the, a rough estimate of costing to get from point A to point B. What is the internet service provider generally willing to invest, and then what's the difference? And then that gives a per household cost of what it might take for that to happen. And all this is leveraged by funding from the province and the feds through the provincial government. But the key thing in terms of control of it, if you're talking about control, is that now the province has decided that all the any letters of support are required by local government to support these projects. So if you get something from any of the internet service providers saying, hey, can you approve this? You're the gatekeepers. So that's your chance to go, well, let's have a look at this. Let's think about this. And that gives you some control.
And I'm just gonna piggyback on that.
Go for it, yeah.
So one of the misconceptions on the connectivity study is that after this study of deficiencies in the area is accommodated, that fiber will be provided to everybody. I think what the strategy and the results are going to show is that just a small portion within our community municipal boundaries are served under 50 Mbps.
That's true.
And those will be the ones to be focused as the low hanging fruit that you suggest. Moving forward, looking at a fiber option for work from home, which needs more than 50 megabytes per second. That would be the avenue for political intervention, so to speak. When you're looking at some of those improvements, how to piggyback some larger fruit from the tall branches, so to speak.
Yeah, and this is something that, so we prepared a draft report we brought to staff and other folks, and that was identified that there's understanding that there's a fiber connection that comes to the town, but it's not going around. So that's another option that was explored to go, okay, if there's no provincial and federal funding available, what might it look like for the community to invest in providing a fiber infrastructure for the whole area? So that's also looked at within the report. So it'll be pretty interesting.
I just wanted to make sure that people didn't have that misconception that fiber was coming to Lake Caution because we're doing this strategy. I think it will identify some deficiencies, but they will not be provided fiber to bring them up to 50 megabytes.
No, I think it would be a much bigger ask, but there is an opportunity there, and there's some general guidance on how that could happen.
Excellent. Anyone else? Yes, Councillor Sandy, please.
On your report, the state of the Cowichan economy, winter 2023, I found it fascinating, like with statistics, pre-pandemic, all that, just the levels of unemployment. And like, where are these people now? Like, where did they go to? Like, EI only lasts for so long, so it's just in all levels of it.
Yeah, it's a complex question. Part of it is demographics. So we're seeing, Cowichan is predicted or expected to have a much higher percentage of people over 65 in the next number of years. So a lot of people retiring. There's not enough folks to fill those gaps. But then there's also people transitioning from one sector to another. So you saw saying that in the stats that there was shift from, there's lower numbers in accommodation, food service, and retail. And generally that is considered tourism. So there's a drop in employment in tourism. Now the question is, but there's also higher vacancy rates for jobs in those areas. So there's people looking to hire people, but they're not working there. So part of that is demographics, part of that is to shift to other sectors. So, and then you have the housing issue underlying it all, where if you can't afford to live somewhere, then then you'll go to wherever it's gonna be cheaper. If you work somewhere else and you can live for cheaper rate, then you're gonna go there. So I think, those are some of the factors.
Yeah.
I think other people will factor education and all this,
Yeah,
but
it's just a change of.
yeah. But it's definitely complex, but the demographic part of that is a long-term trend. And there's a different report, and we should have a blog post of it in a couple of weeks from the provincial government saying that overall, I think it's about 1 point with retirement and everything. There'll be 1.5% increase in job demand over the next, I don't know what maybe it's 20 years or something. And we're showing population growth rates of 1.1 or 1.2. So not even accounting for aging population, there's not enough, there won't be enough people to meet those jobs. So we have some hard walls in front of us that we need to address.
Well, this is great statistically. That's really good.
When I was reading your report, and I noticed a lot of it is that, yes, it's the seniors, and there's a lot of seniors moving to this area. So you look at them, they're not in the workforce anymore, but they're also buying housing that young working families wanting to come to the area can't move into. Either they can't afford it or they can't find it. So it's kind of a constant loop here. You can't get the working people here if they have nowhere to live and work.
Exactly, and then
Attracting seniors and retirees at the same time. Yeah.
that's it. I think a lot of the vision is that we try to accommodate what our expectation of what's going to happen. But we also need to proactively create the space for what we need. So like if seniors are coming and buying single family detached homes, whereas maybe they would like to live in a different accommodation, but it's just not available, then of course they're going to take those spaces, right? So you need to create the housing that can allow them to transition to appropriate housing for seniors, and that will, adjust prices, but also create opportunity for people to take those other housing that's available.
Okay, anyone
Good
else?
observation. Thank you.
No, perfect. Just one other thing, on affordability, and I think it's all relative. Aside from the Lake Cowichan area having the largest assessment increase of 23% average, we are still probably one of the most affordable sections of the Cowichan Valley for housing purchases, single family units. But what the housing needs assessment did identify was those 3-4 bedroom units that are not being built within the community, that are not accommodating the inventory of other possible residences as well. So look forward to some of those coming forward in a discussion. And one more thing, if I may, in the industrial land survey, I think there was some properties within the Lake Cowichan area that were identified as possible portions for light industrial, heavy industrial, with some problems of connectivity and access and servicing, as you mentioned earlier. So we certainly have that on the radar as well moving forward, identifying that there is a deficiency in the Cowichan Valley with industrial lands, and that was very evident in that industrial land surveys. Just an observation.
That one's the next another catch-22, because you have the industrial land, you need it to be serviced, but it's also showing that you have not enough workers in those jobs and trades.
Yeah, the opportunity might be to look at if I may, would be to look at, okay, what is the official community plan saying? What's the population demographics? How can you look at servicing all of that? But then if you're going to service that, then also look at the industrial land and building out a model to look at if all that land was serviced, what's the capacity needed on the sewer and water, and same for the housing, and do it as one project. And particularly with that funding that's coming down the line, from the province, that 1 billion funding. That could be a really good use of that in terms of looking at opportunities for providing full-scale servicing for all those things.
We could probably keep you all night here, Barry, and.
Be my pleasure, yeah.
would not- Sure, it would be our pleasure, but probably not my colleagues. So I will say thank you very much for your presentation. And I look forward to the report coming to the board for endorsement. I will apprise my colleagues of that. They can watch online and attend in person if they wish. That's an invitation. Thank you both for joining us tonight, and have a safe trip home.
Thanks so much.
We'll just give them a couple of minutes to gather their stuff.
So we can have lunch. One of us comes in. Lunch and dinner.
When is
Again, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay, going back to the agenda. We have no action items in correspondence. There is an information or consent item from Miss Rebecca Bishop, UBCM, on the 2022 volunteer and composite fire department training and equipment. Should that read 2023?
I think it's under the 2022 program, but it is going to be in.
It is.
Well, activities must be completed by 2024.
So we have until then to complete the project. That's for information unless anyone wishes to speak to it. Okay, receiving file.
Right.
Thank you. Moving down to reports. Committee of the whole, that was chaired by Councillor Frisbee this month. I will turn to him for minutes of that meeting, please.
It was held on February 14th, and the motions that were moved in that meeting were the committee recommended that the Town of Lake Cowichan send a letter of support to the Cowichan Lake Salmonwood Enhancement Society for its Beaver Creek Restoration Project, and that was moved. The committee recommended approval of the Lake Cowichan Fire Department incident report, the amount of $10,977.38 for December 2022, and that was carried. And lastly, we had the committee recommend that Mayor McGonigal be appointed as the town representative in the 2023 Otaki delegation, and that was carried. And that was all we had on that meeting.
So we'll move those minutes.
I'd like to move those minutes.
Thanks, Mr. And seconded by Councillor Austin. Any questions?
With a comment, everything sounds much better with an accent.
I know, I was thinking as he was saying it, right, his last word was like, oh.
Okay, moving right
So
along.
I turn to Councillor Frisbee and say, move.
Moved.
How was that? Send. Okay, those minutes have been endorsed. Thank you very much for sharing that meeting. We'll move on to the next one, Cowichan Lake Recreation Commission. And again, as the alternate, Councillor Frisbee attended, as Councillor Sandy was unavailable.
It just highlights, it was held on January 26th, so a bit of time's passed since then. I was confirmed that the fourth Thursday of every second month at 7 p.m. they're going to hold meetings. News of a new electric ice resurfacer is now in operation there. We can't call it Zamboni anymore. That's not the right brand. Cowichan Lake Rec Centre has hired a food and beverage coordinator as well as a new clerk. Both those positions were vacant, so they've now filled those. The fitness centre has been busier than expected, which is great news. It's getting over 30 people a day using the facility. I believe at the time of this report, the tender for the cladding renovation has closed, so those renovations will be moving forward. The childcare after school programs have been cancelled for this period due to low numbers, and they're also reviewing the room and hall rental prices. The Lake Cowichan Kraken have applied for a 3-year extension with their arena, and that has been moved to the CBRD board with a few suggestions of amendments to language regarding termination of agreement. So the next meeting will be on March 30th.
Great, thank you very much for attending that. Any questions on the Castle Lake Recreation Commission? Thank you very much, Councillor Frisbee. Vancouver Island Regional Library, anything to report, Councillor Austin?
Yes, thank you. The AGM was on January 28th at VIU in Nanaimo. It was a very busy morning with new member orientation, the nomination report and elections. Aaron Hemmons from Nanaimo was acclaimed as board chair, and vice chair acclaimed was Fred Robertson from Port Hardin. The VIRL has been in operation for 87 years with 38 local governments involved with 39 libraries. It serves over 500,000 people. It was noted that strong libraries make strong communities. The strategic plan report was discussed at length along with fees and charges. Up to 3,300 people were involved or engaged in the survey for the strategic plan, and several suggestions will be considered. No late fees will be charged at present, but notices will be sent out. Through engagement with residents, it was noted that almost half the population struggle with literacy skills, not just reading, but also technology skills. And we had some technology skills that day that a lot of us had trouble with. Anyway, there is a consolidated facilities master plan to be reviewed and updated. Construction of the new Massett branch was discussed, mentioning that Old Massett, a village just down the way from them, is being involved with the plan. Effective communication was discussed at length. And we did mention again being proactive rather than reactive, and that comes out in everything I've been to in the last 3 months. Our next meeting, hybrid meeting, will be Saturday, March 25th at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you very much, Councillor Austin. I'm going to stay with you on the APC.
Oh, okay. The APC meeting was held in person at the town office on Thursday, February 23rd at 4:30 p.m. James took notes as Joe was absent. Our town planner presented the recent census data. A lot of stuff that we just got from the CBRD today was the same as what we had at that meeting. And a background analysis on our official community plan, taking into consideration the current census information. The Cowichan Regional Airshed Roundtable meeting in January was presented, and James had notes for discussion along with the air quality update. It was noted that often the biggest problem in our area is forest fire smoke from other parts of the country and the US, other than when we get an inversion layer with the cold air. The connectivity plan was also discussed, and members wondered why the town isn't going it alone. Other small communities like Brooks, Alberta have it, and it's working very well. One of our members is close with the mayor of Brooks, Alberta. People working from home require the faster, dependable internet service, and it would be beneficial here. Workforce housing strategy notes were also discussed. Our next meeting will be on Thursday, March 23rd at 4:30 p.m. in the town office.
Excellent. Any questions on the APC?
We wanted to sit and just listen
Yeah.
once in a while. Are we
Yeah,
welcome
come,
to
yeah,
this?
you learn lots.
Yeah.
There's lots. I mean, I could like 5 pages actually. But I just made it short,
Yeah.
and the information is there. We're not put on the machine or anything because they're not elected. So,
Thank IT for taking care of the owl and moving us into focus. Appreciate that.
I think Aaron had a question.
I'm sorry.
Could you expand on the going alone comments about the connectivity? Is on my-
Well, one of our members wonders why the town doesn't go it alone rather than go with the CBRD on this,
What does that mean?
doing it ourselves,
Doing what is?
providing the internet, the connectivity. Looking into providing it.
Looking into
Brooks
doing a
said-
study on it.
Yeah,
ourselves, or-
Brooks, Alberta, apparently now, I said, was there anything on the island that's doing it? I don't think any town on the island. So this, Robert said that Brooks, Alberta has done it alone and it's working very well.
So
It's a bigger town than this.
doing it alone means doing a study or actually
Trying,
providing
doing the study and getting it all done and seeing how we can afford it. Personally, I think it would be too expensive, but I'm not sure. It's not really. A lot of people don't want to be going with other groups all the time. They wonder why we can't do things on our own rather than be going regionally with everything that we do.
And I think if I may, the question on going it alone as opposed to piggybacking with other identified areas that have deficiencies was the economy of scales. Looking if 4 individual communities were looking at doing the study, it would be 4 times the price. And that was the reason that it resides within economic development. We're all contributing into that function. And that is where the funds for that study can go. After the results come forward, that would be the time for us to look at the results and see if there's something that we should be doing as a community to look at providing some of those improved services.
Right.
In my opinion.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you very much. Any further questions or comments? Thanks for attending. And yes, please, if anyone is
Oh, yeah.
wanting to come watch, you can come and listen, but ask questions, but not vote. We're just there as liaise and they do excellent work for us and bring recommendations for our considerations. So appreciate that group as well.
Mhm.
Thank you very much. Moving on, Community Forest Co-op. We just had our Director's Appreciation Dinner, which was supposed to be in Christmas, which got postponed to last Saturday, which felt like Christmas with the snow falling as it did, but we all gathered at the Honeymoon Bay Retreat. Excellent location there. The food was awesome. There was guests from Mosaic, from Kalayat, and other organizations that attended. Excellent meal, excellent gathering. Music bingo was the
Yeah, I love
entertainment,
that.
so that was very entertaining. I didn't win anything, but that's fine. I should not be winning. And aside from that, Forest Co-op has gifted the Otaki student delegation some funds of $2,000 to go towards their fundraising activities in the year. And that was presented last night at the Otaki parents meeting and students meetings. So they have contributed along with other organizations. I don't want to take the thunder away from that by announcing those ones, but the Forest Co-op has donated $2,000 towards that trip. Any questions? Okay, next up is Cochin Valley Regional District Board meeting. You all have a beverage.
Not the right time.
You may need one of this. So it's been a busy couple of months going through budget discussions. There was no mandate given for tax increases this year. So the process was to look at the core budget and providing those services and then bringing forward supplemental requests from each department. I'll start with the February 8th meeting. At that meeting, we had a delegation from the Cowichan Housing Association, and they talked about integrated coordinated access for those who need those services. From that, there's some UBCM grants, reaching home funds. Melanie Patnode is the Community Development Coordinator for Cowichan Housing Association now. And coming on April 11th and 12th is the count for homeless and the marginalized, point in time count. And I think what's important there is that we get true concrete numbers in that count where there are numbers reported and not anecdotal for us moving forward in any decisions that we make. So I look forward to the April 11th and 12th time and count for those marginalized and homeless. Also, from the Strategic Initiatives Division, there was a letter to be sent to all municipalities inviting input on the potential establishment of a regional planning service. I thought that was an interesting topic that we will probably be discussing once that letter comes forward, whether we're interested in a regional approach to that. And again, economic development, we just had that workforce housing strategy presentation on results. And also there was a recommendation of $10,000 allocated from economic development to go towards the couch and workforce housing strategy to look at those numbers of deficiencies. Also in community emergency preparedness, there was some supplementals that were approved, 150,000. The Union of British Columbia Municipality Community Emergency Preparedness Fund for the purchase of emergency support services, equipment, and trailer upgrades. That was approved. Also from emergency management was some emergency preparedness funds on applications for different amounts in different municipalities for disaster risk mitigation. Another one from emergency management, another grant opportunity through UBCM. There's a number of those that were endorsed and brought forward for approval. How are you doing so far? And then Facilities and Trails Division, 2023 Green and Inclusive Community Buildings. There was retrofits with 80% of the project costs of the Green and Inclusive Community Building Grant for Cowichan Community Center in the amount of up to, ready? $9,975,000 be submitted. And that subject to grant approval, CBRD's 20% share of the cost will be funded by capital and operating reserves. Also did an application to the same Green and Inclusive Community Building Grant for retrofits, repairs, and upgrades to the Cowichan Lake Sports Arena in the amount of $2,750,000 be submitted. And that's subject to grant approval. The CBRD's 20% share of the cost will be funded by capital and operating reserve funds. That's the project that Councilor Frisbee spoke of on the plating project. That was moved and endorsed. Moving on to February 22nd, was a short one looking at the governance committee, which is newly established by provincial mandate. We have to look at our code of conduct within the first 6 months of election. So that is the first order of business within the new governance committee to look at and amend and approve the code of conduct for elected officials policy within the CBRD. Various other budget discussions throughout. I won't bore you with all the details. I have sent you the impact of our functions that we do participate in. I'll give you a brief synopsis of our impact. Is 19.92% on the increases of our regional functions. We are one of the highest as opposed to Ladysmith, also had a significant increase, but it is apportioned at the assessment. And again, with a 23% assessment increase in the Cowichan Lake area, that had a significant impact on some reductions, believe it or not.
Everything except recreation.
So recreation was a significant contributor to the increase as we move to regional recreation and contribute to 9 regionally significant facilities that were identified in the report. Even though each and every member around the table promised or committed to sharpening their pencils or using an eraser, it did not prove fruitful at the end, moving to about 11.4% increase overall. There was some debate on whether or not there should be some larger functions looked at for possible non-funding this year or decreased funding. Those were not endorsed, and unfortunately, at the end of the day, the majority rules. The arguments for those who brought those forward were not endorsed by those in attendance. The final budget will be a weighted vote where each member on the board has differing values within their weighted vote system. I have 2 in the weighted vote system. North Cowichan has 4 councillors, and I believe believe it's 32 in the weighted, or 28. One or the other in the weighted vote category. So it'll be endorsed at March's first board meeting, I believe. But if you want some entertainment, please go on YouTube channel and watch some of the budget discussions where there will be a half-hour discussion on a reduction of $10,000 on some functions and 20-second discussion on a $400,000 decrease. Any questions or comments? And that last comment, yes, I think we look for low hanging fruit, but we don't look at the large numbers that could make a significant impact.
So what was the total for the lighting project?
It was $2,750,000. 80% of that will be coming from the grant application of the green initiatives. I can send that to you if you wish. And 20% will come from capital reserve within the budget of Crouch Lake Recreation. And one more thing on the regional recreation. After the 3-year implementation, the governance model will certainly have to be looked at. Current commissions, such as the Crouch Lake Rec Commission, will probably be a different entity in the end, with every municipality contributing to this function now. They would want to afford some input into governance of it as well. So it's going to be an interesting discussion moving forward from the funding to the governance and how that transitions. It will stay as it is, the commissions, until the 3-year implementation. In the interim, we will certainly have discussions on what that governance model should look like. I certainly believe that public participation in commissions is a good thing. I look at other models where all elected officials reside in the commission, and I think you get a better outlook and input with a diverse commission. So I hope we remain with a balance of elected and public within those commissions, but that's something to be seen when that comes forward. Any other questions? Oh boy, now I gotta find my agenda. So I will pass on the final budget numbers to all of you, and then I will have it sent to our finance department for consideration on the impact that may be within our budget discussions. It could have significant impacts on what we can, foreseeably accomplish with those increases that are coming to our taxpayers. And I apologize for my lengthy discussion. Everyone okay? I'm not. College and Outreach Committee, Councilor Austin, anything here?
Yes, I was attending the local government leadership academy training in Nanaimo during that time, and I've not received the minutes, and I did put some information from the LGLA in some of the dockets if you want to check that out. It was very interesting, lots of new people there.
Okay, thank you very much. Perhaps once you have a minute, you could forward those to
Well-
council, or
Yeah,
just for our perusal.
sure,
Appreciate it.
I'll just add everything.
That's a great committee.
Yeah, I love it.
Howard Cowichan, Councilor Sandu, anything there?
Yes, we, Councillor Austin and I attended the meeting on February 9th. And what we did is roundtable discussions on goals and objectives of our Cowichan. And the first goal was recognize and respond to emerging issues in Cowichan. Goal number 2, promote health and wellness. Goal number 3, continue to focus on identified issues and opportunities. Goal 4, foster the health, vitality, and sustainability of our network. And what it was is the pros and cons of these goals, what's working, what's not working. There was good discussion, and what Lisa, Cindy did was she, mixed up the tables with new people, with, members of Our Couch and been there for years. So it was good discussion around the table. And, I also want to say that there's a free advanced care planning workshop, March 10th and 31st, from 10 to 12 p.m. at Couch and Hospice. You can plan ahead, to plan ahead of your future healthcare and end of life wishes. And this is free to register. To call 250-701-4242. And we also got an email that there is a poverty community engagement session, March 15th.
Yeah.
From 8:30 to 12:30 at the Ramada Hotel. And the topic is, what are our priorities for improving the lives of those living in poverty? So you can register through the email, it's free. And there was just 3 questions to answer and part of the registration. And our next meeting is in May. The administrators of Our Couch are collaborating all the information that was given on February 9th, and they're going to bring something forward to the next Our Couch meeting.
And that concludes your report.
Yes, it does.
Any questions or comments? Councillor Oscar.
I just want to comment, I've been to a few of those over the years, and it's amazing the people involved and all the work they do in the community. One thing that came up at our table, and I think maybe at your table as well, we're Our Couch and doing too many things. Maybe they could focus on some lesser items, because other groups like community services and things like that are doing some of the things. Maybe they're doing too much. And we had good discussions on the issue of burning wood and stigma around people with drug addictions and stuff at our table. That was very interesting. It's a great group of people. And if people knew all the work that's going on in the community with those people and all the help that is out there, that they would understand better that people are getting a lot of help already.
Great, thank you very much. Nothing else? Couch and Watershed Board, stay with you.
Yes, so we had our meeting yesterday in person at the CBRD boardroom. And some of the things that we addressed was we confirmed the memorandum of understanding with our advisor Oliver Brands. And we reviewed our draft report for completion and presentation to the CBRD and the Cowichan tribes. We approved a draft business plan for presentation again to the CBRD and Cowichan tribes. We also had a presentation, it's called Setting the Course. And this is a great document, and I will forward it to everybody. And it basically overall talks about, the Setting Course workshop was designed to address a lack of clarity and identify the next steps to continue to build clarity and strengthen the board. Definitions for government concepts were presented to help build a common language and clear understanding of what the Cowichan Watershed Board does and does not do. Using the definitions provided, the Watershed Board is an example of both governance and collaborative governance, but is not an indigenous co-governance, a government-to-government relationship, or shared decision-making. We do not have legal authority and should not pursue authority at this time. So it was just, it was the Cowichan Watershed Board that met for a day of putting together this and going over all the documents with the Watershed Board and from the last 12 years and where we've started and where we are now. And one of the biggest concerns the Watershed Board is facing is core funding. The funding has been the same in place for many years, and at times with our 2 core funders, sometimes we don't receive the money until the end of the year. So we rely on our grants that we receive, and to offset, we put aside 2% for administration into savings. So when we are financially kind of struggling to pay the bill, then we tap into that savings account. But this is one of the main issues before the board is, well, before the society, is how we can increase our core funding. So that will be the biggest job, this year, with that. And we reviewed and approved in principle 3 targets. And our next meeting is March 27th, and the Cowichan Watershed Society AGM is March 8th.
Great.
So I'll be
Questions or comments? I do have a comment. I think the Cowichan Watershed Board is a template throughout the province of governance models between First Nations and
Yes.
local government, and is utilized through other watersheds as a possible target moving forward for their governance. So it's well renowned throughout the province as a great opportunity for collaborative approach and sustainable management. So appreciate that, all the contributors to that. Okay, thank you very much. That's for information. We'll move to staff reports. You have the CAO report on subdivision works and services bylaw. Acting CAO, Ms. Gill, would you like to introduce this, please?
Sure, this is the background information from the CAO for the subdivision works and services bylaw. For council's information, what was the current bylaw is not as, the current bylaw that's in place is what some of the issues that were expressed by council are in that bylaw, so this new bylaw will alleviate some of that and the concerns council expressed.
Okay. Everybody got that? So there were some changes from the first and second reading. Driveway location, provision that the cul-de-sac is subject to the approving officer, revised half street cross section. Change in width. So if those changes are okay with this council, I'll be looking for a recommendation that is. I don't see a recommendation here.
It comes later in the bylaws
Thanks very
for
much.
third reading. bylaw.
That's just the staff report portion. Do you have anything on that? Mayor Frisbee?
Oh my God.
Councillor Frisbee.
I thought last, when we brought up concerns, about having bike lanes on both sides of the roads, but that's still included in some of the visuals of this bylaw. But was that addressed, or am I on the wrong bylaw?
I believe those were in the previous bylaw that was previously allowed. So this bylaw is gonna fix that going forward, but it doesn't fix what's happening there as construction. They already issued construction permits up there based on the old bylaw.
But on the new bylaw, I believe there's still two bike lanes on, or bike lane either side of the road, which I think is
On the collector streets, yes.
on the collector street, yeah.
Say like a Point Ideal or something, that's the main collector, they have a bike lane. So
Okay, so that's not on all new development of roads, we won't be seeing two. bike
say not a smaller subdivision, no, but if it's a collector road, yes. And I think one of the councilors did bring that up last time. I don't think it was real.
And the difference between a collector road and is the width.
Width is 20 meters, the asphalt's wider, bike lane,
Shoulders
shoulders,
wider.
sidewalks on both sides.
Okay, so that's for later on for the bylaw. Moving on to number 2, council remuneration and expense bylaw. That's your information. Anyone have anything on that? Anything there, Ms. Gill?
No, just that this bylaw is later, will be coming forward later for the third reading again, and generally speaking, practice has been the council to approve the remuneration bylaw for the next council, and then it stays in place for 4 years.
Yeah. Okay, next report is the development permit for number 9-537 Hornpike Field Drive. Described as Strata Lot 9, District Lot 13, Couch and Lake District Plan BIS 5120 to support the construction of a single detached residence. Ms. Gill.
Yes, this property is a development permit area, so a development permit is required as you're building in a sensitive riparian area. As required, a QEP report has been done. And so this will be also forthcoming for a bylaw later in the agenda.
Very much. Any questions at this time on that one? Okay, thank you. Moving on to number 4. Emergency Operations Center funding. Ms. Gill?
Yeah, this is an opportunity to apply for 150,000 in grant funding. It was missed at the last council meeting. So there's a council resolution here for approval so that we can apply for this funding through the CBRE.
Okay, you're moving the staff recommendation. I'll read it out. A council resolution on that council approved the making of a grant application under the Emergency Operations Centers and Training Fund Stream for 2023 through UBCM to maintain or improve an EOC, and that it further provides assurance that it would support all the proposed activities under the plan and would undertake the approval, the overall proper fiscal management of the grant. Moved by Councillor Sandu and seconded by Councillor Frisbee with a question.
That's second.
Seconding. Any other comments, questions? I will call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That motion carries. Thank you. Next, from the Director of Finance,
Sorry, I did that one last.
UBCM Community Preparedness Grant Funding.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the 100. Yeah.
So there is a resolution for the Cowichan Valley Regional District to apply for, receive, and manage the UBCM Community Emergency Preparedness Fund Emergency Support Services 2023 grant, funding up to 150,000 on behalf of Town of Cowichan. Someone move that, if they wish. Councillor Frisbee, second by Councillor Onaka. Discussion on that. Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That motion carries. Superintendent of Public Works and Engineering, capital expenditures prior to the approval of the budget. Mr. Sandu, please.
So, just to get moving, with some capital projects, one is, Nelson Road. West there from AW to the sharp corner, we'd like to, get that cleaned up and resurface it. And Duncan paving is very busy this year, so we've got a scheduled in for March right now, and if we miss that, they don't know if they can get it done this year, so like that approved. And then the River Road, the water main, as we've discussed before, from the reservoir all the way down to the bottom of River Road, it's too small to feed the town, we need to upsize that. So we're looking to do some design work there. Just so we can get it ready if we come across some grant funding, as well as the 100 houses. We'd like to do some water main design there, so if we get some funding there too, we'd like to start our water system there.
Councillor Sandu.
So when you do this, is there a reason you do the designs ahead of a grant application, like when you're looking to apply for grants, like?
A lot of the time when you're doing a grant application, they ask if you're shelf ready, is there, I put it in there, what they call it, you have a design ready, if we give you funding, can we move quickly on it? Because sometimes they need to spend the money quick, so you gotta be, engineering, sometimes it takes a year. As we know on Greendale Road, we've been at it for over a year, still haven't got a complete design.
Okay, any further questions?
Yes, I have a question on Nelson West. Have you checked all the undergrounds? Have they been upgraded?
camera the sewer line a couple weeks ago. It's in really good shape. And the water, it's a PVC water main there. There's, I think, 2 services that are left to upgrade, and we'll do that before it's paved.
Because at one point, the former superintendent said if they ever paved that road, they would put a water extension over to the Trans-Canada Trail kiosk for that area to be able to water the trees and stuff there. Is that possible, or is that going to be another large?
Another 10,000 in the budget.
I'll see what I can come up with. I'm gonna have to dig a hole myself.
We can do that.
Yeah, it was brought up that they were gonna try and do that, just to put a connection over that. Yeah, because there's still trees and different things there that we do.
Okay, thank you very
Yep.
much. Anything else? So just piggybacking on the grant application, I think most grants do not allow the funding to go towards a study. That it has to be shovel worthy as opposed to shovel ready. So we're looking for approval, pre-budget to prepare an asphalt paved Nelson Road West. The approximate cost of that is $100,000. Also, River Road water main upgrade design work to be tendered, and 100 houses water main upgrade design work to be tendered. The 2 water main design projects would be approximately $100,000 as well. So the request is for those 2 projects to be pre-approved prior to the budget being approved. Do I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Bomaka, seconded by Councillor Austin. Further discussion? Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Thank you very much. With that, we've been at it for almost an hour, so if we can just take a 5-minute break, do a little bit of stretching and get ready for round 2. Back live.
I need it to kind of.
Okay, we will reconvene the meeting at 7:27. Going to bylaws now, we're gonna look at the Town of Lake Cowichan subdivision works and service bylaw number 1082-2022. And maybe read a third time, Ms. Gill, please.
Yeah, the bylaw is here for third reading. It's the Town of Lake Cowichan subdivision works and services bylaw number 1082-2022. That was discussed earlier in the meeting.
Okay, that was in the staff reports. Any further discussion on that bylaw? Looking for moving a third reading. That was moved by Councillor Sandu. Seconded by Councillor Austin. Further discussion? Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That motion carries. Thank you. Next, the Town of Lake Cowichan Council Remuneration and Expenses Bylaw number 1084-2022 may be read a third time. Do we have a mover of that? Once it's on the floor. Moved. I have a seconder. We have a seconder. Any discussion? Councillor Sandu.
I'd like to make an amendment to the wording in 9G1. Right now, what it says is if the tablet is damaged, lost, stolen, the elected official is responsible for the cost of replacement unless the tablet is proven defective. And I sent each of you an email just with my thoughts on an amendment. And so this is my amendment to this bylaw is if there is malice proven with a damaged tablet or loss, the elected official is responsible for the cost of replacement unless the tablet is proven defective.
Okay, that's your proposed
That's
amendment.
my proposal.
Do I have a seconder on the amendment? Seconded to get it on the floor. Thank you, Councillor Frisbee. Would you like to elaborate?
I would.
Councillor Sandu.
So I researched all our local municipalities under their remuneration bylaw. And I have asked a few, two directors and a municipal councillor, what is the process in their region? And the wording of this is, if the iPad is damaged, then it's our responsibility. And the reason I put the word in malice is because malice is an intent. So again, if I threw my iPad on the desk or I threw it across the room, that's intent to damage it. So that would be my responsibility to pay for the cost of the damage. I took out the word stolen because I feel that it just doesn't belong in this. And I left the word lost for discussion at the table because there's many things to the word lost. And what concerns me, if these aren't intentional acts, but something happens, it's our responsibility to pay the cost. And I find that very unreasonable as elected officials. Our iPads are our working machine, and we use this a lot at home when we're at meetings representing the Town of Lake Cowichan. So the reason I put in again malice is because if it's intentionally damaged, then yes, that the individual councillor should bear the cost of the either replacement or the repair.
Okay, any further discussion on the amendment?
Amendment
Yes, on the amendment. It's on the floor at the moment.
or discussion.
Yes.
Yeah.
The replacement of damage with malice is taken, stolen is taken out. All the rest is the same.
I have an issue with how to prove malicious. So I could throw my against the wall and break it because meeting didn't go as planned. And then I can bring it in and say, oh, I'm sorry, but this, it fell off my table. So it's really hard to prove that. I did ask Ms. Gill too, what the cost of these tablets were, and I believe it was in the high $400 range. And so I myself just look at it as I have an option of either using the town provided tablet to do my work, use my computer at home, or use my own, which some councillors and former mayors have done. So when this was given to me to use as a councillor, I already took the responsibility of knowing that if it's lost, stolen, or damaged, I myself am responsible for it. If I don't want to bear that responsibility of it being loaned to me, then I don't accept it. If I'm not willing, but that's my personal feelings when I took possession of them.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Griffin, please.
Just on the removal of stolen, so if the tablet that gets stolen, as soon as possible, that be.
Well, that's the question, is it, if it was at my house, would my house insurance cover it? That's questionable. If we're at a conference and it's in my bag beside me, but somehow, somebody sneaks behind and takes it, so. And I also want to know is why all these changes to to a bylaw in 2020? Like, what made the changes come to this new bylaw? To make it this specific, that any of this is at a cost to us. This is work we have to do. And as I said, I reached out to North Couch and councillor and two CBRD directors. And I asked specifically, do you have this in any bylaw or anything? And they said, absolutely not. And they said, and they wouldn't support something like this, but I wanted to just use the word malice, and proven is a difficult thing, absolutely. But along with malice, you have to be able to prove that it was malice. So that word has to go along with the term malice, so.
Okay. Any further discussion or comments? Councillor Austin?
I
you
can't
look like-
think of anything at the moment. I'm getting confused because, yeah.
Okay, we
You
have,
mentioned earlier that if it was stolen when we were at a hotel, then I'd be at fault because it was stolen and I left it in the
Well,
hotel.
this is a perception that was just at the table, right? So if it was in our room and our room is locked, then
It should be
stolen,
safe.
why would it be my responsibility? If somebody got into my room, like
Yeah,
staff from that hotel, I'm not gonna take responsibility for my iPad being stolen.
I don't know. Is there anything from any previous groups that anybody's had any of this happen though? I don't know.
So that's why I don't know why.
I don't know.
okay, Councillor Frisbee.
Just for clarity, so in the CAO report about this, it says that the previous council brought this in. Is that correct?
Mhm.
That is
Yeah,
correct.
we were
It was brought forward by the previous council for this city. For
But it was also done with a consultant.
Yeah. You always do it for the next council, you don't do it for
I understand
yourself.
that. I was
But
just
these
about-
recommendations wouldn't have just come from the consultant, I'm sorry, it would have come from whoever was working along with our consultant. Because why would they put something like this into a bylaw without feedback from our staff? It didn't just come out of the air. So there's reasons for this. If I could be given a reason why this had to change, then maybe I could address it in its entirety, but I can't.
did you have a follow up on that
I didn't.
point? Are we done with discussions? Yes.
So also in this bylaw, the communications expense, this increased from $30 a month for council to $50. So at the end of the year, there will be a $600 reimbursement. So if a tablet is lost or whatever, and council being replaced, they will get another reimbursement of $600. Which is
Well,
annually.
but that's for, that's for our cell phones though, and our
Yeah.
internet. That's not for a replacement of an iPad.
It's a reimbursement of council
Technology.
But technology, but not the actual iPad,
You get a check, it's whatever.
which
you
would be
use it for.
utilized for my internet use and my cell phone use if I was using my cell phone. It's specific in the bylaw. in the right direction, so.
Okay. So we have had input on the amendment. Are we all satisfied with that discussion? And call the question on the amendment. All those in favor? Those opposed?
I'm confused.
I will call the question one more time. All those in favor of the amendment? And those opposed? That motion fails.
Yeah.
So we go back to the bylaw as presented. Any further discussion on the bylaw as presented?
So 9G1 is what we go back to.
Yes,
Yes, it is.
Yeah, but that,
as first presented. No amendment.
Yeah.
I can call a question on that. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Please note Councillor Sandu opposed to the bylaw. Thank you. Third reading of that, yes. So Town of Lake Cowichan zoning amendment number 1087/2022 may be read a first and second time. Ms. Gill?
Yes, so the zoning amendment, which was discussed earlier in this meeting, is here for first and second reading of the Town of Lake Cowichan zoning amendment bylaw 1082/2022.
Okay, do I have a mover for that? Moved by Councillor Sandu, do I have a second? Seconded by Councillor Frisbee. Discussion on that? All those in favor? Oh, sorry, Councillor Frisbee.
Clarification of the storage container that referring to.
Okay. Through myself to Ms. Gill on the confirmation of the storage container within the bylaw.
I'd have to look into it.
Okay, we do have time for that clarification.
This is the first.
First and second reading, so
Yeah.
with that clarification coming back, you're okay? Yep, moving forward. So I'll call the question, all those in favor? And opposed? Noting the question from Councillor Frisbee on the storage. Looking ahead to the Town of Lake Cowichan zoning amendment bylaw 1088-2023. May be read a first and second time. Moving on that. Ms. Gill?
Yeah, so the Town of Lake Cowichan zoning amendment bylaw number 1088/2023 may be read a first and second time. It was the subject of an earlier memo. Back report.
Okay. All good with that? Moved by Councillor Austin, seconded by Councillor Frisbee. Further discussion on that one? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That motion carries. Thank you. Under new business, I think both of these new business items were dealt with by the delegation. So I don't believe we have to deal with these under new business. I don't have a mayor's report per se, but I'd just like to share a few things if I could. First of all, I want to wish our CAO a speedy recovery. As he's getting better from a medical concern, so we wish him the best on a speedy return, speedy recovery. Also, I want to give thanks to our public works crew for doing the best they can with the limited resources we have in the latest snowfall incidents that we have had. I'm pretty sure someone has made Winter very mad and has yet to apologize for that. I wish it would do that pretty soon, so it would return to Alberta where it should reside. On a more serious note, a recent police incident involving a number of police vehicles and crew members was in our municipality. And during that time, there was a number of on-seers who were videotaping, who were posting to social media, who were placing not only the person of interest, but also those attending officers in serious jeopardy. When asked numerous times to step back and remove themselves from the situation, they treated it as if it was an amusing, entertaining section to contribute to their social media status. I think that's irresponsible at the least and dangerous at the most. We rely on our police force and emergency responders to respond when there is a problem. Had there been another incident because of this, they would not have been able to, A, stay on the subject that they were trying to contain, or B, respond to the other incident that may have come up. So I would ask if there are incidents in the future that you please adhere to the recommendations of the officers. If you're asked to step back, please do so. I think it's important that we keep the whole community safe and not put either the person of interest or the responding officers in any danger. So with that, absolutely.
So I think where it also started was somebody on one of the social media sites posted like a Google map of the location with a headline to stay out of the area. So when something like that gets put on Facebook, then people are going to just be drawn to that. So to me, that is wrong. And hopefully it won't happen again.
Councillor Austin.
Yeah, it was close to my house, that he was hiding 2 doors over, actually. Anyway, when I had to drive around Cowichan to go down to the church, there were dozens of people, and they were taking pictures and thinking it was a real, and instead of taking it seriously, and it does put the police in jeopardy. I think it's wrong. And people need to smarten up when it comes to social media. Really.
I just wanted to get that out there. I do support our sergeant in her endeavors to keep us all safe. I
Yeah,
think
they do a
they
great
do a great job with the limited resources and the large service area that they provide all the way up to NetMat.
Yeah.
It's a huge geographic area. And if something else occurred, I think we would not have been quick to respond. So
It's a privacy issue too for the person.
absolutely.
Especially the house next door that everybody thought it was that house. Yes.
Okay, any notices of motion? I see none. So we do have question period on anything on tonight's agenda. It's a maximum of 3 minutes per speaker, and the maximum time allowed will be 15 minutes. Again, it's limited to items that are on the agenda tonight. You can phone in to 250-749-6681. That's extension 108. Or you can email them to general@lakecowichan.ca. That's general@lakecowichan.ca. The phone number again, 250-749-6681, extension 108. We'll take a 3-minute recess and wait for any possible questions on tonight's agenda.
Yeah. I've
Back
seen
at 7:49.
You got one. I didn't get.
Okay,
one.
we will come back to our question period if there is any. Ms. Gill, any phone calls? No emails? So prior to adjournment, I would like to announce a budget meeting on Tuesday, March the 7th at this location, 38 King George, the temporary town office at 4:30 PM. We start the budget process for 2023. So anyone wishing to attend, you can attend in person or watch online. That's the first budget meeting, Tuesday, March 7th at 4:30 PM. With that, I will look for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Bomaka, second by Councillor Sandu. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Thank you to staff and to those watching. Thank you very much. Good night.